Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning blog. My name is Melissa Galasso, and I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about a new proposal coming out of PEEC regarding compliance audits. This is really in response to a lot of questions that are popping up related to the thousands and millions and trillions of dollars in federal funding and the several tens of thousands of entities that are now subject to single audit who have not been subject to single audit historically. And so they wanted to explain exactly how the compliance audit would impact the requirements in the area of independence. And so we get a new definition for compliance audit. We also get a new definition of a compliance audit attest client. And then they revise two different interpretations, one related to the definition of a financial statement attest client, and then one related to the client affiliates and state and local client affiliates rules. So let's take a look at what's happening here. So as we indicated, this is a very important concept. So it was issued on June 3rd of 2022, and comments are due pretty quickly, September 1st. And that is because so many of these entities are the subject of these upcoming audits. And so we really wanted to be paying close attention to this. So right now, the GACPC believes that as many as 10,000 or more new compliance audits are going to be required as a result of the COVID-19 funding. And that doesn't even include looking at what the impact is going to be of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, because that also is expected to. And so as we started to look at compliance audits, there started to be some questions about independence in particular. And so they decided to address that in this exposure draft. And so the first thing that they do is provide us with a new definition of a compliance audit. And that is an attest engagement that is performed under the Statement of Auditing Standards when the member is requested to report on an entity's compliance with specific requirements. And so the example that we have here is an AUC Section 806 report, which is reported on compliance with aspects of contractual agreements or regulatory requirements in connection with audited financial statements. Or it could also be under the compliance audit requirement for government audit standards, such as the uniform guidance in AUC Section 935. And so if you're performing either under 806 or 935, that's really what we're focused on here. And so a compliance audit attest engagement may include multiple compliance audit attest clients. For example, if you think about this, multiple compliance audit attest clients may have amounts included in a CIFA in compliance audit performed in accordance with the uniform guidance. So for example, when we look at a government, for example, say a state or a county, they have lots of entities that roll up into their CIFA. And so when they are reporting, they're not just necessarily reporting their own funding, but they have lots of entities that are going to be rolling up within that CIFA. And so we get a new definition here of a compliance audit attest client. And this is an entity with respect to which a compliance audit is performed unless the entity is not subject to compliance audit procedures and reports amounts that are clearly trivial and inconsequential. Meaning in this scenario, the entity is not actually, so because again, the county, for example, might have multiple types of entities included in its CIFA. In this scenario, if this program isn't selected and that entity doesn't have any audit procedures performed on it, and the amounts are completely trivial, right? So they're below the amount that we would even consider for B programs, right? In that scenario, then that is not going to be a compliance audit attest client. So if we are performing procedures on you, or we're not performing procedures on you, but it's a material amount, not trivial or clearly inconsequential, then you are a compliance audit attest client. On the other hand, if we are not performing procedures on this entity and the amounts are trivial and clearly inconsequential, then they won't fall under this for reporting purposes. And so when an entity meets this definition, it is not considered a financial statement attest client. So compliance audits are not the same as financial statement audits. And so they're trying to differentiate here what the requirements are going to be. So they update and revise the definition of a financial statement attest client to add the bold. This definition does not include a compliance audit attest client. So the financial statement attest client rules are not going to apply to compliance audit attest clients. And they also give an explicit out for client affiliate and state and local government client affiliate rules when we're performing a compliance audit or an engagement subject to the independent standards for engagements performed in accordance with the attestation standards. So particularly SLRF funds, state and local fiscal recovery funds, those are not going to have a single audit or a program specific audit, but they are going to have a compliance examination performed under the attestation standards. And so In this scenario, they're just scoping out those from the requirements of client affiliate and state and local government client affiliate rules. So what does this mean here in terms of what is the impact? So for members performing compliance audits, the changes will provide relief from the independence rules and its interpretations with respect to an entity that is not subject to compliance audit procedures and which reports trivial and clearly inconsequential amounts. And then on the state and local government, as we indicated before. So let's take a look at the example, because I don't think a lot of times this makes a lot of sense until I read the example. I read the thing multiple times until I got to an example that helped. So say we have a state government. So state government, very large, has counties, has cities, has all kinds of things roll up to it, is subject to uniform guidance and includes hundreds of entities, departments, agencies, component units that report federal program expenditures on their CFA. The total on the CFA is over $1 billion. We're going to perform major program determination to identify which programs are going to be subject to audit procedures. 2 programs total $1,000 in the grand scheme of $1 billion. We determine that those are trivial and clearly inconsequential. In that scenario, the entity is not subject to a compliance audit procedure because it's not a compliance audit attest client. So when we think about it this way, they're not going to be subject to procedures. It's clearly inconsequential, so we don't have to worry about falling under the requirements for the attestation standards or for the requirements related to the audit side of the house, because we're not going to have to follow those. And so it's going to give us a little bit of an out. Any other entity that is not clearly inconsequential or that we're performing items, audit or program task work on, then those are compliance audits, and you would comply with the independence rules and its interpretations. But again, you would not have to follow the affiliates rule, but the other ones, again, not the financial statement audit requirements, but the regular independence rules. So hopefully this is a good overview here. If you have suggestions on how to improve this or make it a little bit clearer and cleaner to PEEC, I am sure they would love to have your comments before that September due date. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on a future blog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.